Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Sam with Historic Travels and welcome to another video. And as always, before we get started today, I'd just like to take a quick moment to welcome all my new subscribers and to thank everybody who's been leaving me comments and messages down below. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. And for those of you who are wondering, I am going to get to the Costa Concordia video very soon, probably in the next week or two, because I do have some projects going on for the rest of this week and beginning part of next week that I'm tackling first. And then after that's done, we'll jump to the Costa Concordia. So until then guys, thank you all so much for your patience and I hope you enjoy the projects that I do have coming up. But for this video, this is going to be another what if video for the RMS Titanic. And it actually covers a question that I get asked quite often in my comment section. And the question is, how would the disaster of the Titanic have played out if another ship had actually been able to reach the Titanic before it sank? So I guess what I'm going to use as a reference or for further context in this scenario is what ship would actually have been able to reach the Titanic before it went down? Well, the first and only ship that comes to mind would be the Californian, or the mystery ship. The Californian was roughly 10 to 15 miles or so away from the Titanic before it went down, and if its radio had been on, it would have most likely been the ship to reach the Titanic before it sank. Now, in this video, we're not going to go into the issues that the Californian would have had to face in order to reach the Titanic before it sank, like the ice field and stuff like that. We're going to assume for this video that the Californian made it to the Titanic. The Titanic still had roughly an hour and a half left to live before it sank, and that they actually made it there in time to begin trying to rescue people from the Titanic. How would the rescue effort during this scenario have played out?
And you see, it was this very scenario that the lifeboats on the Titanic were intended for. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, when you ask most people today what the purpose of a lifeboat is on a ship, most people would say that they are, their purpose is to actually be able to evacuate the entire population of a ship in a disaster scenario and have all their occupants wait in the ocean, safe from the sinking vessel until another ship came to reach them. However, this wasn't the intended purpose of lifeboats in 1912. The truth of the matter is that lifeboats in the early 1900s were not meant to be a means to successfully completely evacuate a ship and have the entire occupants of the ship wait in the ocean for pickup. The real purpose of lifeboats back in the early 1900s was to be a means to ferry people from a crippled ship to another ship during the initial evacuation.
Okay, so using my models here, I'm going to try to give you a better explanation to what exactly I was just talking about. So when I say the whole idea was for if a ship like the Titanic was in trouble, the whole idea was to use the lifeboats the Titanic had to ferry people to another ship, just pretend that my Lusitania is the Californian, to another ship and so on, and use that as a means to do an evacuation. What I mean exactly is, let's say you have a lifeboat. This is just a paper thing I made, so just bear with me. You have a lifeboat at the Titanic, and you have another lifeboat at the Californian. The whole idea was to completely fill up this lifeboat with people, and then have it head over to the Californian, and at the same time, the Californian would have another lifeboat head over to the Titanic. This lifeboat would drop off its occupants, this lifeboat would pick up more occupants, and then the lifeboats would just keep going back and forth in this type of scenario, just crisscrossing between the two ships until the ship was completely evacuated and all the people that were on board the damaged vessel were now moved and they're all safe and sound on the vessel that is floating nearby and rendering aid to the sinking vessel. But yeah, so that was the whole general idea around lifeboats at the time. They were not seen as a means to completely evacuate a ship like the Titanic. The primary purpose of lifeboats was a means just to ferry people from one damaged ship to another ship that's floating nearby that was there for rescue. And the big thing was, the White Star Line had complete confidence that this system was okay for two reasons. Number one, the Titanic and all the other ships around were all sailing on the same route across the North Atlantic. Any vessels, whether it be the White Star Line with the Titanic, the Lusitania with the Cunard Line, whatever, all these ships followed the same shipping lanes across the North Atlantic. So they always thought that there would be another ship nearby that would be close enough to render aid should disaster strike. And then you add on top of that Marconi wireless technology. So now not only are there ships nearby, but all these ships are in communication with each other with wireless technology. That was the whole thinking. They really just didn't think at the time that a disaster like the Titanic would take place, at which there were no other ships nearby that could come to render aid, and that all the occupants of a stricken vessel would need to be evacuated and put into the water in a bunch of lifeboats before help would arrive.
And the White Star Line even had experience using this same system with lifeboats, and it actually proved very successful in an earlier disaster. You see, in 1909, about 3 years before the Titanic went down, another ship called the Republic, as seen in this photo, was involved in a collision with another vessel. And this ship, the Republic, also didn't have enough lifeboats on board. However, it was equipped with the Marconi wireless system, and it transmitted a distress call. Fun fact, this ship was actually the very first ship to transmit the CQD distress call. Anyway, this ship broadcasted a distress call, and other ships were able to arrive on site before the vessel went down, and using the limited number of lifeboats the Republic had on board, it was successfully able to ferry all of the passengers and crew off of the Republic to another vessel before the Republic ended up sinking.
So yeah, I think you have the idea. With all of these things in place, the Marconi wireless, the busy shipping lanes, and due to the fact that the White Star Line had experience in the past with the Republic disaster, they really just didn't think that more lifeboats would be necessary than what the Titanic had on board the night she went down. Now, let's jump back to the Titanic and the Californian for a minute. Let's assume that the Californian reached the Titanic and they proceeded to begin trying to ferry passengers off of the Titanic to the Californian. Well, honestly, I believe the scenario would play out just like we've talked about in this whole video. Titanic would lower lifeboats, the Californian would lower lifeboats, and the lifeboats would just go back and forth between the two ships until everybody was successfully off the Titanic and onto the Californian. However, there's another issue we have to cover. The Californian was a very small ship. The Californian at maximum capacity was only designed to hold around 200, 220, 230 people. So very small in comparison to the Titanic. And somebody in my Discord mentioned to me, do you think that all the passengers on the Titanic could fit? Well, here's what I have to say to that. Yes, I do, but it would have been a very tight fit.
Now, at the time of the sinking, the RMS Titanic had approximately 2,200 people on board. And I know what you're thinking. How on earth could they fit 2,200 people on board a small ship like the Californian that could only carry a maximum of 200 people? Well, as I said, I believe they could, but it would have been a very tight fit. Now, what are my reasonings for this? Well, to answer that question, we need to jump ahead to the 1930s and talk about a ship called the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary was a passenger vessel designed in the 30s, and it could carry a maximum of 2,700 people. However, during World War II, she was used as a troop ship in order to get people from America to Europe to help with the war effort. And during these crossings, on one voyage, they had over 15,000 troops on board this ship. And you can see from these photographs, it was literally shoulder to shoulder. I mean, this ship was so overcrowded, but they succeeded in boosting the capacity of the Queen Mary from 2,700 people up to 15,000. So yes, I do believe the Californian in a pinch could hold the passengers and crew of the Titanic, although, as I said earlier, it would have been a very tight fit.
And another thing you have to keep in mind, it's not like the crew on the Californian would have had to keep all of the Titanic's passengers on board for very long. They would have only had to get all 2,200 people off of the Titanic and onto the Californian until another ship showed up to help share the load. The Carpathia was on its way. So once the Carpathia showed up, they could have split the passengers in half. Half of them go over to the Carpathia, the other half stay on the Californian, or maybe even divide up the passengers even more among other ships that were in the area. So it's not like they would have to pull a Queen Mary and keep all 2,200 people on board the Californian for the rest of the voyage. They would have only had to keep those passengers on board the Californian until another ship would show up to help them rescue the Titanic survivors. Alright everybody, well hey, that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and found it interesting, and yeah, it was fun to do another what if video again. I haven't done one of these in so long because we were so busy doing the whole timeline of the Titanic series. I hope you guys liked the movie, and it was a ton of fun making that series as well. So it feels good to do another what if video again. Alright everybody, well hey, if you like this video, please give this video a thumbs up. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys, it really means a lot. And you guys just keep doing what you do. Keep giving video ideas, keep leaving great comments. And if you would like to please come and join the Discord, we would love to have you there as well. Alright everybody, well hey, y'all stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good night everybody.